What's really different about this program, Lewis, is, to me, is first the ability to put all of the skills together in some kind of a coherent way. I mean, as a business professional, we learn these skills by trial and error. And sometimes we figure out how to do things just because it worked under a certain set of circumstances, but we don't learn how. I'd done meditation before, I'd done some qigong and that sort of situation, but I'd never had the feedback mechanisms that are built into this program that reinforced how and how quickly I could actually demonstrate these skills. That's been profoundly useful. So you couple the feedback mechanisms with the ability to actually have each of these modules build on each other, you get to a point where I guess the major output of this program, in the first module anyway, is to build a leader's confidence in himself or herself. And that then leads to the second module that helps that person be an effective leader of small groups, and then that leads to the third module, which helps that person be a leader of larger groups. I had a board meeting coming up, and I can remember going in, I had thought I had begun to master the skill of getting into the zone with a freeze framer. You put me on the machine, and I got into the zone, and I had a big green pillar there, and things were going really well, and then you told me to visualize being in the board meeting and looking at certain individuals on the board and anticipating certain questions that might come. And all of a sudden things started to turn really red. And I realized that it was what the difference was in terms of being in the laboratory setting and being in the real world. And then what helped me was the realization that, okay, it can still work, and I got things turned around and got back into the green. That was very helpful. So that by the time then I went to the actual board meeting and we were dealing with some very important things, it was no problem. I had done that before. I'd lived through it before through visualization. So that's one lesson that I learned. I can remember another situation where we've been involved in some several negotiations recently relative to acquisitions and some divestitures, and I can remember one of the discussions where the particular negotiation has been very, very difficult and stressful. The other side was pushing really hard for some things. It had all come down to me having to negotiate this final point, and I must tell you, I didn't sleep well the night before. There was a phone call that was coming. I knew it was going to be a difficult phone call. The deal kind of hung in the balance on the way this thing was going down, and I was feeling a lot of stress and pressure. Recognized that I was probably doing a lot of that to myself. And so I remember going over and spending a little time with you. We went through our normal focus and concentration drills, and then just before I had to leave, you suggested that maybe we ought to go through a relaxation technique. I'd done that, and then you put me on the freeze framer, and I went into first time I'd ever done it, 100% green. That helped me have the confidence to realize that I could control that outcome. I remember coming back to get ready for the phone call and the negotiation. A couple of people around me noticed that I was in particularly good mood and that I was in control of things, and one of them observed, well, I was wondering what I could do to help you, and it looks like the best thing I can do is just get out of your way. You look like you know exactly what needs to be done, and I went into that phone call and the outcome was positive, and as a result of that, I'm convinced that I don't know what I would have done without that kind of experience and training to help me go through that experience. In all candor, I can't imagine anyone for whom this program would not hold benefit or insight unless they came into the program with their mind locked up tight. As we mentioned earlier in the discussion, the benefits come from experiencing the benefits. You have to actually convince yourself that you can do the things that you can do. If you come in programmed to fail, you probably will. So people have to come in with an open mind and with a real willingness to learn. And we all recognize that learning is a revolutionary act. You have to acknowledge that you don't already know everything in order to learn something new. People who are willing to do that and to go through that kind of trauma to their self-esteem, there's enormous benefit here. For those people for whom their ego won't permit them to learn something new, or for whom it's difficult to admit that they're not already where they want to be, it's not necessarily a waste of time, but it'll be an uphill battle for people. That's one of the reasons why we want to set the center up here at Hillenbrand Industries to be available to everybody, but most especially for those people who really are serious about wanting to improve themselves.